All right. And here we finally are. Grace, I have been looking forward to this conversation for a while. I'm very glad that you're here. So, if you're joining this, I like to call this soft skill conversations. This is where I just speak to people who are experts at what they do, and we just keep, I don't even like to call this an interview. I like to call it a conversation. I like to call this just a heart to heart conversation where you just open up and just, you know, let's find what we can learn from you. Let's just find what we can learn from you. So for introductions, today I have with me Grace Olugbodi. It's very interesting. I've known you for the last few months now, and I really find you very, very inspiring. And so, I kind of googled you up to get ready for this. I don't want to use the word research per se, but I googled you up as I was getting ready for this, and I just discovered that you're Dr. Grace Olugbodi. Uh, Please introduce yourself and tell me a bit about that.
Right. Hello, everyone. And hello, Christine. Great to have to be on here on your platform, and it's an honor to be interviewed by you. And so, my name is Grace Olugbodi, and I specialize in creating maths games for children to help them fall in love with mathematics and reduce mathematical anxiety. The physical board games that we create, and we support parents as well to help them know how to teach their children maths and how to support their children with mathematics. It's all about making maths fun, really.
Wow. All right. So you have a doctorate in mathematics, is that it?
Yes, I was awarded an honorary doctorate degree a couple of years ago by London Metropolitan University, and in recognition of helping children fall in love with mathematics. So it's all related to creating this board games to help children love mathematics.
Wow.
That was,
That's
yeah, that was definitely an honor.
it is, isn't it? That's for me is very. I was at a graduation ceremony at one point where we were. A gentleman friend of mine, actually a cousin of mine, was being given a doctorate, an honorary doctorate from some American university, and they said there's three ways you can earn a degree, a doctorate. You can start. No, there's three ways you can become Doctor Grace. You can be a medical doctor, you can be a PhD doctor, or you can have an honorary. And they said an honorary is the most difficult to achieve. That's the most difficult. So congratulations on that. I'm really, really impressed. I'm very, very, very.
Thank you.
Uh, I've had I've had experiences with people who carry the expression doctor, the title, sorry, of doctor so and so. I remember at one point there was a professor I used to go to church with years ago who would come walking. And I thought to myself, there's something very wrong with this picture because academics are supposed to lead us to a better life. So here is this guy who's gone to the apex of academics and is having to work. Another example for me is when we've had demonstrations by university professors who want a better pay. And so, in order to lobby the government to pay them better, they demonstrate in the streets. Now, that for me has drawn such a terrible picture. Now, I'm saying all of this to lay a background to what we are talking about. You can be good at academics and also make a profit. So,
Absolutely.
talk to me about how did you start doing your maths games? What brought the idea to your mind at all?
Right. So, a bit of a backstory. When I was young, when I was 10 years old, I didn't struggle with maths, but I was somebody who always looked upon the kids that were good in maths as special. And I always wondered what I could do to be a little bit more mathsish, to get better grades in maths. Um, and I noticed that they kind of had this special treatment around them. So they were in special class, and the class was, and then the rest of us were like in normal classes, and I wanted to be in the special classes. And I always wondered, well, why in primary school? When I was 10, which was the last year of primary school, during the holidays, so now between primary school and secondary school, I was bored one day and I asked my dad that what could I do, because I was bored, and he said, "Oh, let's do some maths." And I'm like, no, I kind of mean like fun stuff, But then he said, let's do some mathematics, in a different way. And he said, have a look at what I'm about to be showing you. It's fun. And I didn't think maths and fun went together at all. But anyway, we went through a series of you know, it was over a summer, and he just really just made maths fun and creative for me. He wasn't actually teaching me, he was just making it fun and creative and looking for different ways for it to feel a little bit less daunting for me. And then, to my greatest surprise, I got into secondary school a couple of months later, and at the end of the year, I won the maths prize for the whole year out of about 300 and something students.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, wow, like I couldn't believe it when they called out my name, because I thought, they've obviously made a mistake. And I remember that my overall score was 84%. So being the person who had got the highest grade in maths in my whole year, like people didn't see that coming. Like my classmates didn't see that coming. I didn't see that coming. And then looking back, I thought, you know what? We didn't do much. There wasn't any sort of number crunching, he basically made it fun and creative. That's all he did with basic fundamental maths. And so throughout secondary school, I started to love maths more. Won a few other prizes, went on competitions to represent the school in mathematics, and people thought I was a genius. And I thought, wow, no, I'm not a genius at all. And I remember that my nickname even changed. Like the boys, they used to call me Babyface and Dollyface before then, which I didn't like then, but I like it now. I mean, if you call me Babyface and Dollyface, I'll certainly love you forever. Um,
Keep that in mind.
but then my nickname changed to like Solid. They started calling me Solid, and I'm like, what, Solid? Like, I'm the one that these guys, and these were really smart guys, but they were like, they didn't see her coming, and I'm a girl and all that kind of stuff. So that really, the whole experience of what my dad did for me and the results from that really boosted my confidence.
Oh, okay.
And it turned my confidence around, and from then on I realized that actually there's no such thing as a maths person. Talent is overrated, because maths is really just a skill, and any skill just needs deliberate practice. And that's where I started to go. Then in my BSc, I did computing, so I had a first class in computing in my BSc, and I chose the more maths like units. Again, I literally orchestrated my first class results by choosing the more maths like units. I just kind of played to my strengths. But it was while at university then that I got the opportunity to volunteer for to help children increase their math skills through games, and that's how I got into it.
Wow. You said something there that got my attention. You said you helped yourself to do better by choosing those units that were easier for you, that were more difficult
Absolutely.
for you. I know a gentleman now in our society, of course, the maths and the sciences make you look better, especially if you're a boy. I don't know about your community, but right here, we tend to look up at the students who do better in the sciences, and especially if those students are male. So I know a gentleman who, when it came to choose his A level subjects, he was very, very good with the languages, very good with the languages and with the arts, but they were not macho, they were not tough. So he went for the biologies and the mathematics, and he ended up not doing as well. So I think I like that you're saying it's a good idea to embrace what it is that you're good at. Yeah, that
Absolutely.
actually was the entire theme of my book, Play to Win, where I talked about identify what your strength is, because that gives
Exactly.
you an advantage, gives you an unfair advantage. When you're racing with somebody who is a professional athlete, you're playing in their game. I
Absolutely.
like that you chose mathematics because that's what you like. And so
Well,
you,
that was my yeah, that was my strength. That's what I had found that I was good at, if I could use that word, because the results showed that, and it
how
looked
old
like
did you say you were when you had this experience in the summer with your dad?
10 years old.
You were 10. Now, speaking to parents, what would you say is the role of a parent in how well their child does? Not necessarily in academics, but in those things that maybe they're struggling with, or maybe they want to pursue that they like. What would you say to parents around what their children's skills are?
Yeah. I think we Africans have a culture of, well, certainly the generation before ours, there was this culture of uh, of wanting their children to be certain things, so mom is a doctor or dad is a doctor, one of them must study medicine, and nowadays I would say it's a nice to have if any child is interested in medicine,
Mm,
great to have that, especially if the parents have a practice or something like that they want the child to take over. But if it isn't their strength and they don't love it, then they really shouldn't do it. There'll be something else that they love. And I think that, life is easier,
mhm,
and navigating the path of where they need to get to and where they should be going to and where they would find where they would shine.
mm,
The path is where lies in where their strengths are already.
mm, mm. So you're
Yeah,
saying to parents, identify what a child already knows, already likes, and then encourage that because that is what is likely to grow them.
absolutely. Encourage that. And it may be that they might find other strengths as time goes on,
Mhm, mhm.
but when you're trying to help your children make decisions, those decisions at that point in time should be based on the things that those children um, are strong at.
Okay.
That's very important to identify their strengths. Self awareness, very important.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
A quick question. Maybe we should have taken this in your biodata. You said as Africans, maybe I should ask where are you from?
Well, Nigeria. My parents are Nigeria. I was born in the UK, but my parents are Nigerian, and I certainly lived in Nigeria myself for uh, quite a number of years, over 10 years.
Or you lived the first 10 years of your life in Nigeria?
Not the first, no. Somewhere in the middle. So we went back
Okay,
from
you
the
were born in
UK.
the UK, went back to Nigeria.
Yeah,
So you
right.
had both cultures. You've been exposed to both cultures.
Right. I did primary school and secondary school there, and then I came back for college and university in the UK.
Okay, and now you've settled there and your family lives in the UK. What would you say is the difference between the education system in either of the countries as far as maths is concerned?
Life's changed a little bit from the time that I was in primary school, but certainly in my time, there wasn't any such thing as trying to make maths fun for children. This is the maths, this is the maths. You just do it. But nowadays, it looks like children have more options. I mean, they have to study, not those kind of options, but what I mean is more options in terms of how they learn, and certainly with the advent of the internet, there are so many new things now, videos that we didn't have in those days. Um, Even in those days, people weren't using maths board games to learn. And I found with my game that I created that schools are now using that. So
Mm,
that's a big difference. They're trying to find ways to make maths more fun, where they can find it more exciting for children, so that they can take away that pain of children feeling like they have mathematical anxiety. You
okay.
know, you asked earlier how I got involved, and the backstory I gave is the reason I got involved
Mm,
in what I do now in helping children create maths games for kids. But the way that I actually the I've told you the reason I got involved, but how I got involved in what I'm currently doing is because while I was at university in my first year, I went to the student union building one day because I was part of what we called peer support. I was helping other students in maths and programming, just giving a little bit of almost like mentorship. Other colleagues, in university. And when I went to the student union building, I saw an advert one day, and they were asking. It was an organization around where the university was, a government organization, and another charity, and they were asking for people to volunteer, students who could volunteer, who could go into schools and help children who were struggling with mathematics build their maths confidence,
mm,
but through games and through creative ways. And I thought, wow, these children, I recognized straight away, these children were suffering from mathematical anxiety because the advert did say children who are struggling with maths or who have low confidence, are the ones that they were looking for help for. So I thought, I can't not volunteer because this wasn't my experience when I was
really,
younger.
it reminded you of you.
It reminded me of, no, it made me feel like, because I didn't struggle, but I didn't struggle with maths generally, but I struggled to excel in
Okay,
maths.
okay, okay.
So while it reminded me of that process, the bigger thing that it reminded me of was that my experience actually was largely beautiful, because it's sort of like six, seven-ish, eight-ish that children start knowing or feeling like, oh, I like maths, I don't like maths, kind of thing. And by 10, I'd had this support.
Oh,
My
beautiful.
experience as a young child was largely consistent of this bit where I was doing really well and I was getting this maths prizes and all that. So when I read that advert, I thought that wasn't my experience. I
Mm.
didn't have low confidence. I
Okay.
wasn't struggling. I didn't have mathematical anxiety. I was just in the middle and I was struggling to excel. But these children were going through even worse. They had mathematical anxiety, they had low confidence, and then that advert was looking for volunteers to go into school and help children, you know. And my heart just bled for those children because these children were as young as ages 6 and 7, you
Yes,
know, eight.
when you use the
So
word anxiety, if we're going to go all the way into anxiety when we're talking about a 6-year-old, that's honestly, it's worrisome. If a child is going to be anxious, at 6, a child is just supposed to be learning and playing. Their life is supposed to be very fun.
that's what I was thinking. I thought this is travesty. Like, how can just because they're learning maths, they have all this mathematical anxiety and so, and it's so serious that they have to start posting adverts to look for people to go and volunteer and help. Do you see what I mean? You know, I thought this isn't right.
So how did that go when you volunteered? What did you do exactly?
Wow, that was a very interesting process. So we were going into schools once a week, and we would play games with them for half an hour once a week, and we would ask them some questions around the games they're playing to help them think critically and creatively and analytically. And within 6 weeks, the teachers, we got a report back from the teachers that the children were putting up their hands more in class, they were more engaged, their confidence had turned around, and this was just within 6 weeks. And that to me was like, wow. You know, that to me was a big wow. And that's why, you know, by the end of the year as well, they had raised their maths levels bar none. All of them had raised their maths levels by one,
Oh,
bar none of them, you know. So then, you know, I started to realize that just a little bit of support to make maths fun, that had replayed itself. My father did it in that summer. Now I was doing it for these kids again. So I started to think that what can help parents and schools help children increase their maths confidence and reduce mathematical anxiety. And that's when I started to think of, you know, so I went on and did my master's in financial markets. I, you know, worked in investment banking for many years as a Java programmer and all that. But all that while I was thinking about these kids and how I couldn't see anyone really doing anything about helping parents help their children love maths and enjoy maths more, because that was the bigger problem. Too many parents I noticed were afraid of mathematics and didn't know how to help their children. And that's why the idea of the game was born.
okay, okay. Now, the idea, I like the use of the word idea because ideas are not scarce, they're very common. People have all sorts of good ideas, people have brilliant ideas. I think usually what's lacking is the confidence to implement these ideas. What gave you the confidence? I'm sure you've had this expression, who do you think you are? What made you think you were good enough to to bring the solution? Because I think for many people that becomes the trap. They have all of these good ideas, but they don't think they're good enough. They look at themselves and they're like, who am I to try and solve a maths problem?
Yeah,
What gave you the confidence to go ahead and do it?
yeah. So I think I mean, there are a couple of people involved in this, in helping me gain that confidence to actually launch the game. The very first thing I noticed was that I did this program called Virgin Startup Entrepreneurship Program in the UK, um, and I had a mentor from there. And that mentor, when I showed him, when I showed him the game, he said that the way to play the game was great, but then he said there were a couple of things wrong with the board and things like that, you know, and he kind of mentored me through. He said that he thought I had a winning concept,
Okay.
but I needed to change the board and the graphics. Um, so and that's where I started gaining that confidence to say that if he would think that was good, and knew about games, he's got children as well. He was a maths governor in the school that his children go to, the governor in charge of maths. So he knew a lot about this terrain, and for him to say that part of it was even good, like part of it, I started to gain confidence and on thinking I might be able to release this. And then when I created the new board that he asked me to create, and I would never forget the day I got that email back from him saying the subject line of the email was awesome,
Oh,
with a
wow.
full stop, and the A was a capital A, and the rest of it were lowercase letters. That was the title of the email, because I sent him the new one that I'd
The
created
board that you're
just for
implementing.
him to look at it, the new board. And when he said that, I knew that I was going to launch it.
Oh,
And
about
after
how
that,
long ago was that? How long ago was that?
that was 2015 when
Oh,
he said that.
okay.
Um, and around the same time, I met Jeffrey, who I believe you work with Jeffrey,
Yes, I do.
and I was asking the same question, like I don't know how to launch a game, because remember, around the time I met my mentor,
Hmm.
I also it took a while from that time, from the time I met him to the time I finally got this new board and then said, okay, here it is, before I got the email back saying awesome. And in that time, within that time as well, I met Jeffrey, and he had coached somebody through his book and had helped him produce his book and all. And that person was our director in another business that I was part of. And Jeffrey came to give a talk about that, and to meet the rest of us who were in that same organization with that director. And so I asked Jeffrey that, I've got this game and I don't know how to, do you know how to get a product out? Like what to do next and getting a product right? And Jeffrey said, what, you've got a product? Like what's a product? As I told him, and he said, wow, like that's, he was like, not many people have a product, he said, so if you've got that product, you can get it out, and you should get it out. Actually, you'd be doing yourself and your stakeholders, or your audience, the children that I was trying to help with mathematics. He said you'd be doing them a disservice, and he said write a book.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so the process of writing that book also helped me get my message even clearer, such that my book, by the time I was ready to launch the game, I'd written like the major parts of the script of the book through Jeffrey's guidance.
Hmm.
And so when I had people like this around me who would say, who I thought knew a little bit about products and getting things out there and stuff, and they said, "This is good. This is a good concept." This is how my confidence was building. That I must launch it.
Okay. Has it been smooth ever since? From then on, you went on to make $1 million?
No, it hasn't been smooth. I'm not sure that it'll ever be smooth.
Okay.
I don't know about that. I don't actually know anybody who's had a smooth journey. If you know any, please let me know.
Good
I
idea.
would. I want to make friends with them.
Very good idea to give the reality, because a lot of the times we get pictures. Now, I'm from an athletic country, and most of the time we see the end of the race.
Absolutely.
Pictures show you the end of the race, the medal, the win. Nobody shows you the years of grinding. Nobody shows you the process.
That's
All right.
correct.
So I always think it's a good idea to go to demystify what is it, what does it take to become successful in launching something, you know? So Jeffrey says write a book, and you end up publishing a book on the same subject. Is that on the same subject? Okay.
Absolutely. So
Actually,
since
I should have asked you to have the book with you so that maybe you can hold it up. But don't worry, if you're watching this, I'm going to put the link down here to where you can find Grace's book, where you can actually find the maths board game that we're talking about. What's the name of the board game? What's the name of the book? What's the title?
the book, The board game is called Race to Infinity, and it's on Amazon.
Okay.
And the
We'll put a
maths
link
book,
down here so that anybody who wants it, of course, can find it.
yeah, okay, sure. And the maths game uh, is called Make Maths Fun. Sorry, the maths book is called Make Maths Fun. That's the title of it.
Oh, wow. Beautiful. Beautiful. All right. So you come up with a book and then you finally perfect the maths board game and all of that, and you launch it. Uh, how do you market it? How do people get to know about it?
Yeah. So that's the beginning of the work.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so you got to launch it first, get it out there, get the confidence to launch it. Get a couple of mentors who can support you and help you. You certainly need, you know, somebody who would help you link your idea to writing a book that shows who you are behind that book. So the books behind that product. And you can write your book even if your product isn't out yet, because then it still tells people that the product is coming and tells people about the product. So a book, I would say, is a marketing tool. It's a branding tool. It's a way to let people know about you. And my book was helpful in doing that. And then marketing, well, writing the book is part of marketing, really. But then it gets your message clear so that it makes marketing a lot easier to do.
Now, a lot of people who are going to be watching this, if they're going to be in my region, they won't obviously be from the UK or from where you're from. But give us an idea of, I have this very good idea. I want to launch this product, or I want to launch this service. I want to start this business. A lot of people start with, I don't have any capital. I'm sure it doesn't cost £0 or 0 shillings to write a book, to publish a book, to start to launch a board game, to even make one sample. I think it costs some money. So
Yep.
how do you find, if I have this good idea, what would you say to somebody who has a good idea and that's all that they have?
Yeah. I think everything costs a little bit of money, and I think that when people want to do something, they find the money for it. Um, the people who at some point or the other don't have money to do one thing, they have money to do another thing. So it's a matter of priorities. The question is, why are you doing it? Why are you writing that book? Who are you trying to help?
Okay.
What information are you trying to get across to your audience?
Mm, mm,
And how important is that? Simon Sinek always, he's got his TED talk on I think it's something like begins with your why or begin with your why. It's
okay.
called Simon Sinek.
Mm,
And the key thing is why, as a person wanting to write a book, why are they trying to wanting to launch that product? If their why is bigger,
mhm.
if their why is big enough, then the money would come somehow,
I've had that as well. I've had, if the why is big enough, you'll find the how. I've had,
Exactly.
I've had a similar experience because, and I've talked about this often. Last year, COVID came around and wiped out my business completely. And then Jeffrey is someone we've referred to Jeffrey, and this is Jeffrey Samaganda, who I had met many years ago, and I had been through his training on how to become a speaker and writer. And I'd eventually launched a company, but my business went bust with COVID. And when he heard about it, he told me, hey, you didn't have a business. What you need is the Wealth Messenger program. And he said, I'm going to make this available to you if you raise $500. Now, ordinarily $500 wouldn't have been that much money, except my business was bust and we were in COVID and I had no revenue. But I made it my business. So I understand
Absolutely.
what you understand. I understand what you're saying. Sorry, I understand what you're saying. That if my why is big enough, I thought to myself, all right, if someone gave me a bit of money, or if any of my clients paid me one of my invoices, I'd be able to put food in the fridge, but that wouldn't solve it. So I thought to myself, forget rescuing myself, let me get this training. So I can understand what you're saying when you say that when the why is big enough, then you will find the how. Then you'll.
Absolutely.
So does that mean you're no longer in investment banking, that this is what you do full time?
That's correct. I resigned from investment banking. This is what I do full time.
Okay. What was that like? Because again, a lot of people cannot tolerate the risk of not having a salary coming in. What would you say was that experience like for you?
Well, at the time when I resigned, I didn't go straight to. I did have my game idea, and I actually all of that time I didn't even have the confidence to launch it, even when I was resigning. So I actually initially resigned to set up business, to set up another business, in health and nutrition, and so that and even that business, I only resigned when I'd gotten that business to a certain stage where I knew that I'd be able to replace my income if I did the business full time. So I've done the business part time as well as what full time in investment banking at the same time,
Mhm.
with kids and
You're
with a
taking it
wife and
as
all that.
you could while still in the job.
Yes, correct. I started the business while still in the job. Yeah.
Okay.
And built up.
Oh,
And
and
then,
that business still operational?
that's absolutely, it is. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you have that business as well. All right. That's
I do have that business as well, but I don't spend time in it because I decided to focus on the Maths Games.
okay.
About 4 years ago, I launched the Maths Games.
Oh, you launched the maths. Oh, and you're saying games. You have since launched other games?
Yes, well, I have since created other games. We are in the process of launching the other ones.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So your first game has done so well that you're now going ahead to produce other maths games.
that's correct. So we've created another four games.
Or you're doing another four games.
No,
That's
we have done them. We've created them. We just need to launch. We're just in the process of launching them.
beautiful. Beautiful. How far and wide do you market your games and how do you market them?
Mostly
Not
on
that they are
e-commerce.
known, but how far have they been? How where is your reach?
Yeah, we're in 12 countries, but our biggest markets are UK, USA, and the Middle East,
Okay.
and the more like North Africa. So it is Africa, but also, a, a lot of those parts are called the Middle East, so it kind of crosses.
Yes, it does. Oh, it does. Okay. All right. Very interesting. What would you say has been the advantage of going fully into business as opposed to keeping the job?
Oh God, no! I mean, I wouldn't have been able to achieve any of this. I wouldn't have been able to launch even properly while being in a job. So it's a case of, you know, even while I was doing both, business part time and full time work, I I couldn't do as much as I would want to do with the business because I was at work and work had to take priority. But when I built up the business, and it is going to be hard initially to do both, so one's got to be part time, the other one full time, and it requires a bit more work than you would normally do. But what I would advise I would give to people who are looking to do this sort of thing is, to start that business on the side. They can certainly start by writing their book or starting to sell some of the services or pre-sell some of their services, just doing it on the side as a side business, side hustle.
Okay.
And after a while, it builds up. As long as they continue to do that and not give up, it builds up. And then once it's gotten to that stage where they can definitely cover their bills, I will not encourage anybody to leave their full time work, if they're not sure that they can cover their bills. And preferably, they need to see that the other business is actually enough to cover their bill because they've earned pretty close to that while doing it part time,
Mm.
knowing that if they resign from their full time job and they go full time into this business, then they can make much more. And that's the way that I would advise people to do it.
I've had that experience. I resigned at one point when resigned to jump into a dream I hadn't started yet, and so I got very broke very quickly. So I can understand what that's like. I can understand what that's like. And my advice usually to someone who wants to leave their job is you're ready to resign when you don't touch your salary for 6 months. If you're able to leave and pay all your bills without touching, don't go into your salary account for 6 months. That means that you've replaced your salary. That's a lesson that I learned, by knocking my head against the wall. Can I assume that you have a family?
I do, absolutely.
Okay. What's that like, the balancing of your family against running a business?
It's hard.
Okay.
It's hard, and I don't think there's a balance. It's just really hard to keep finding that balance all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think that when you've gone past the stage of trying to work as well as build that business as well as build a family, and you now are doing either the business full time or doing work full time without having to mix it with two different things, then it just means one less thing to worry about.
When you
So,
say it's hard, Grace, break that down for me. What's hard? What makes it difficult?
well, okay, well, if I think about when I was trying to do the business part time, work full time, there's almost no, and then I had a 2 year old at the time, or he was almost three. It was hard because I could only do stuff after coming back from work. I could only work on my business after coming back from work. My son was at nursery a lot of the time. I needed to prepare things that I needed to do the other business after work. So I think, how do you do all of those and not burn out as well at the same time? So it's balancing act. Like there are just too many balls to juggle at
Mm,
once. And
okay.
that's what makes it hard because you've got to prioritize some things. And for me, my children come first.
Mm,
So I had to make sure that they weren't suffering because I wanted to, you know, work as well as build a business at the same time.
okay.
Um, it was almost like giving everything its own place because it was also important that those things were done. But at the same time, I didn't want to not be able to give my child time or have time to spend with him. Um, so it's that process of balancing everything together, especially when you're female.
Okay. Oh, that
Uh,
would have been my next question. Would it
okay.
have you found it harder being in business as a woman?
Absolutely, absolutely. There are so many other challenges that women have to deal with that men don't have to deal with. And so when you add those into the mix of all the things I've been talking about earlier on, it's it's a lot, but it's doable. And a lot of women have done it. They've done it before us, they'll do it after us. So, I see many women as very inspiring when they've navigated this sort of course and still managed to build something at the same time as raising their family, working, building their business, you know. Um, but but the moment that people get to the stage of now starting to build that business and not having to work at the same time, or it might be a case of going part time at work, once they start building some sort of income from the other business, you know, as soon as it's possible, then it's important to drop one of the balls without dropping your dream, if you know what I mean,
Mhm.
and without compromising what you need to pay bills and to support the family.
Okay. Okay. What does an ordinary day look like for you?
My day tends to vary once it from about 11 o'clock onwards. I'd say my day varies, but in the morning, I'm a morning person, so I love waking up at 6, 5. Sometimes when I've woken up at 4:30, I've been delighted, absolutely happy, because it means nobody else would be up, and I
Okay.
can just concentrate and do my thing and just work and think. And I mean, sometimes by 9 o'clock, I've literally gotten in 3 or 4 hours of solid work with no interruptions, you know.
Before the family wakes.
So, yeah, you know, and sometimes 6 hours because as kids will grow older, all I really needed to do was just check in. Okay, yes, she's having a shower, he's having a shower. Okay, you know, let's not breakfast together, just before they go to school, that sort of thing. And I found that as an early riser myself, I found that I got a lot of serious work done in the mornings. So
Okay.
usually before sort of 11, I do get a lot done. And then
Okay.
the rest of the day, you know, I can use in a reactive mode on, usually meetings, but whatever else comes through, like that needs to be dealt with. Could be anything, could be logistics, uh, could be another game we're creating, could be team members, meetings with team members, catching up on various things, various tasks that we need to do.
Okay. Wow. Interesting. Interesting. I like to call it matters arising. you never know where your day will take you, but you like to carve out 3 or 4 hours of work early in the day so that
Absolutely.
before the matters begin to arise, then you've already done what was on your calendar to do.
Exactly.
That's beautiful. Now, I want to talk about your role, not just as a woman in business, but as a mother. What effect do you think your business has had, especially when you do a business that targets children? What effect has that had on your own children?
I think for them seeing their mum having a goal and deciding to do something and actually doing it is a big thing. And I think parents should endeavor to show their children to lead from the front because we always tell them, no, go for it and do this and do that. But actually, they would do it. They would be more likely to do it if they watch you do it and they see those results. I remember in sort of 2015 where I was saying to my husband that if it would kill me, I will get the board game out. And I
Wow.
said, if it's the last thing I do, I will get the game out because by then I was like, I need to get it out. I just need to get it out. I don't know how. I just needed to get it out, you know.
I
And this is
like that determination. I like it a lot. If it will kill me, I will get this out. Because a lot of people who have brilliant ideas will give up at the first sign of resistance, at the first challenge. So I like that you are going at it with you are you're not giving yourself any option to not get it out.
no, and I did before though, because I had the idea a long time ago, and for years I didn't actually launch it because I didn't have the confidence to.
Okay.
So I think I was lucky to have met uh my first mentor who actually looked at the product itself and knew about games as well. And subsequently Jeffrey, who then helped me with the book. But I think that people should, it could be that they might be in my sort of situation where I was for many, many years, and I put my dream up there on the top of the wardrobe, and I would see it every time, and I
Very
would
well
not feel
meaning.
ever
Very
see
well
it.
meaning. I'll get to that, except I'll get to
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I'll get there, but it was years that I didn't do anything else about it. Nothing major because I didn't know what to do next, and I just didn't have the confidence. I didn't know if it was good enough, if it wasn't good enough, if it, I just, but I didn't feel that I wasn't convinced myself that, hey, it's good. And I needed that person to tell me. I needed some guidance. And after that person had told me, I needed other things around it to build around it, because when you have a product, you can build so many other things around it, and that's where the book came in as well, and many other things around that, like creating a licensing model and all of those other things. Now, with for people who are not sure how to proceed, I would say the book is a big shortcut because if I'd met Jeffrey earlier, I would have been doing something in those years when I didn't know what to do next with that product.
okay.
And if I'd started doing my book,
Mm.
um, then my message would have been clearer, and I would at least have been doing little services, talking about it, maybe doing interviews, writing a blog, doing a podcast on it, something, you know, and that would have helped me
Out
get the confidence as well
there. Okay.
to go and launch it.
Wow, very you just exemplified something I like to call God's currency is not cash, God's currency is people. Because I think your dream will either see the light of day or not based on the people you have around you. Because if you had not met this first mentor and then when you met Jeffrey, I think you may not have had you may never you might not be sitting here today. You might just not be sitting here today. So I think sometimes I say to myself, if you would know what it's costing you to keep the company that you're keeping, you might not want to. Because
Mm-hmm.
none of us are promised tomorrow. So really you can't squander today being around people who discourage you and everything. And so on that note, what role has your family played in encouraging you in being your cheerleader and all of that? What has been the attitude of your family?
Yeah, I think, I didn't need much in the sense that me seeing what that would do for my own children and the sort of soft skills it would make them have and the sort of mentality and resolve that they would build in future when they have a goal or a dream and want to do it. That was just enough for me. That was enough push for me to just, I was so enthralled that my kids could take part of it. And we would always test the games together. We would always, you know, fix it, get it better, and all that. And remember, they're my target market. They were kids as
Mhm,
well,
mhm,
and I was targeting kids their age, so it was perfect. So they were my testers, and we played the first game. We played it over 150 times each.
oh, wow. Okay. Okay. So how well do they do in maths?
Oh, they're great at maths. They love maths. Absolutely, the best
Oh,
subjects.
that's
You know, yeah.
beautiful. That's beautiful. I would say that that is both in their genes and also in their upbringing.
No, you did not listen
Nature
to me
has
earlier.
a nurture.
No, you didn't listen to me earlier. I said there was no such thing as a maths person. Maths is only a skill, and any skill. Uh-huh.
So you're
So
saying that anybody can become good at math.
absolutely.
Really? Is that your experience?
Yes, certainly. It was. It is. It
Okay.
was and it is real,
In my
which
part
is,
of the world, there's usually an attitude that boys do better in maths than girls. What
I
would
mean,
what would your comment be on that?
yeah, it's again, it's about how it's the environment, it's how girls are put, it's how maths is portrayed to children generally. And a lot of the things that parents do is we go, the girls are just, the girls, so they can kind of sit pretty and don't worry too much about it. But the boy, you know, they need to be good because they need to be a man, kind of thing. So then these messages are subliminally passing to these children,
Okay.
because I just hate it when people say to me that, when they say that girls are not good at maths. Girls' results may not be that great compared to boys because they're the ones who are more likely to lose confidence quicker. Generally, in anything in life,
Mm.
who generally tends to step backwards a little bit more quicker. It's the girls. That's all. That's the only reason why.
Okay.
And it's probably because we are all brought up to see girls as a little bit, not being able to do as much as a boy would do or a guy would do.
Very
It's definitely nothing to do with any natural sort of anything at all. It's a
just in
girl,
organization and in how they are, it's just the
right?
expectation on them and then what they are taught to expect even of themselves.
Exactly.
Okay.
If a girl puts the time to maths, and they practice their maths and they are given that support by their parents or by their teachers, they'll improve at maths. If a boy does it, they'll improve at maths. It doesn't matter what maths doesn't know any gender. It doesn't care. No skill cares about gender. If you go learn to ride a bicycle, you'll be able to ride a bicycle. If you go learn how to swim, it doesn't matter if you're a boy or a girl. You'll learn how to swim.
Okay.
There might be less professional women swimmers because of other reasons, like they maybe get pregnant at some point and then they have to sometimes they drop off and they like, it's harder to go back, that kind of thing. But that has nothing to do with the skill itself.
Okay, I agree. I actually agree with that a lot. What do you does an example come to your mind of a time when you've had a challenge that specifically hit you based on you're a woman in business?
um I think there's certainly a stereotype there,
Okay.
because of the industry that I'm in.
Mm.
In the STEM industry, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. Again, for some of the reasons you gave, it tends to be a man's world, and there aren't that many women in this industry.
Okay.
And a lot of people probably know about all this widespread agendas and how the UN and other organizations are trying to get more girls and more women to step into STEM careers, and careers that are based on math and all that. Um, so because there are less women in the industry, people are not really expecting to see a girl creating math games.
Okay.
I don't know. Do I know any girl that's created math games? I'm gonna have to wrap my brain and think whether I know any girl who has. I'm sure there are, but I don't know any. But ask me. Oh, What about the other maths games? You know, they were all created by boys or a boy and a girl kind of thing, but I don't know any.
Okay.
I'm sure there are, but I can't like think off the
None
top of
come
my
to
head.
your mind at the moment. Wow, that's now. What would be? Give us some success stories of what your maths board game has done, or your career in general. What are some of the success stories that you've had of people's lives that you've touched with your work and with your products?
Well, initially there was a time when I created not just, I mean, the game does involve times tables, but even just without the game, just showing them some making maths fun tricks around, what they could do with numbers and fun. I had people telling me that maths will never be the same at night. So we've got our new bedtime, routine based on some of the tricks that I was teaching them. um, as regards to the game, we've got several testimonials, probably up to definitely 500 plus testimonials on what the game has done for their children,
Feedback of what it's been like.
and how it's helped them to increase their confidence and help them learn without realizing that they're learning. And certainly my own daughter, she started playing that game at one of our first games. She started playing Racing Infinity when she was 4 years old. And by the age of 6, which was year 2, and she was one of the youngest in the class, by the way, she had learned her whole times table.
Wow.
And she had the record in her class for the child who could do her times table fastest, in 1 minute 59 seconds. And that was just, I never had to teach her times table. She never had to chant times table like we did when we were younger. You know,
Mhm.
that painful stuff when you're
I
6
know. We
times
have to
6,
memorize it. Yeah.
7 times 8. I had to do that. So, yeah, she never had to do that. And she learned her times table just by playing a game. And I
Oh,
know many other kids whose parents have told me that the same happened.
beautiful. I love that. I love that. This is really inspirational for me. What would be 3 lessons you say you've learned from being in business?
I mean, my fast would always be go for it. If you have a goal, go for it, because you do yourself a disservice if you don't, even if it fails. Because I thought my bottle game was going to fail. When I was launching the game, even after meeting my mentor and meeting Jeffrey, writing the major part of my manuscript, and after the mentor told me that I had a great idea and I should do a board, and even after he said awesome, I had the confidence to launch it, but it doesn't mean that there's a different thing between having confidence to launch your product and actually knowing it will succeed when
Mm,
you launch it. So I had the confidence to launch it, meaning I now knew that I had a good product.
okay.
Well, other people saw it as good.
Mm, mm.
Um, was it going to be successful? I didn't know. I thought it was going to fail, but I was going to launch it anyway,
Okay.
even if it failed.
Why did you think it was going to fail?
um, it's probably a little bit of it's probably some imposter syndrome sort of thing, because I just didn't think, I told myself that what makes you think that you, a normal girl from a normal home,
I get it. The whole.
who only knows normal people, can even go and create a game
Okay. And
and
have.
a country when you're an ethnic minority?
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Like, what makes you think that yours is even going to get anywhere at all? You know? So that's,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. I get it. So first lesson is go for it. Whatever it is, just go for it. Don't wait to be
What,
ready. Just go for it.
whatever it is, go for it. Number 2
Mm-hmm.
is around a quote, like my favorite quote, which is by, I don't know how to pronounce his name properly. It's Goethe, which is Goethe,
Mm-hmm.
and that quote, I can probably find it, but it says that when you've decided to do something, the moment you decide to do something, when you've decided to do it, um, everything you need starts to come together to and all the resources you need starts to come together and present themselves to you.
Okay.
So the key thing is to
So your
decide,
idea is waiting for your decision to go ahead.
not waiting, just to know that the No, it is once you decide.
Yes.
So the question is, have you decided?
Yes.
Have you really decided? Not just, oh, I want to do it. Have you
Maybe I should
decided?
say it this way. Your success is waiting for your decision. It is your decision to go ahead
Oh, yes, that's
that
correct.
will align everything that you need. Maybe
That's correct. Yes,
and maybe not easily, but they will align themselves and they will come through for you as soon as you
definitely.
decide to go forward.
Absolutely. That's yes.
That's
I didn't realize that's what you said originally. Yes.
that is
It is
very,
waiting for your decision. Absolutely.
very, very profound. All right, and lesson number 3.
Um, you know, a lot of people say that they want to do something and they don't back it up with actions.
Okay, okay,
And I'm afraid in that situation, it isn't going to work or get anywhere. You're definitely guaranteed to fail without backing it up with actions. Actions doesn't mean just pick up the phone and say, oh, yeah, I want to write a book. You have to be doing it. You have to set those targets and follow those targets. If you don't meet a particular target, because, you know, there are other things, you know, the kids, the whoever, do it as soon as possible. Reset your targets, but just do it anyway.
okay,
Just do it anyway. So it's backing it up with actions is what my third.
okay. Back it up
So
with action. Whatever it is you want to do, back it
back
up
it up with
with action.
action.
Because no amount of reading the book, of taking the course, or make it at the end of the day, you have to act on it.
Absolutely.
Wow, this is brilliant. You know what, Grace? We have to do this again. I did not want to do this long, but we've had this. I'm learning so much. I've been taking notes, but I really think we have to do this again because there's so much that I can learn from you. I really look up to you. I really admire what you've done, and I'm very appreciative of you taking the time to do this with me now. Where can people find you? Where can people find the game? What are your
Right. Yeah. So I was going to type in the link on here, but I think
no,
I
it's
didn't.
not a
That
problem.
would take me away from
You can always send
being
them
on the screen.
and I'll put them at the below this
Yeah,
video.
and also if anyone just goes to Amazon.com or .co.uk and they're looking for the game, if they just type in Race to Infinity Matt's Game, they'll find it. Race to Infinity Matt's Game. I can write the name in here and they'll find
I'll
it.
definitely put the link down here. So if you're watching this and you want to find the Race to Infinity Marks game, you can find it here. If you want to find Grace's book as well, we'll put links at the bottom where you can find those and you just click the link and you're able to find that. So Grace, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
You're very welcome. It's really lovely to be here and to be chatting to you. So thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. I'll definitely be in touch with you. All right. Bye bye.
Okay. All right. Thank you.